Beautiful friends, Alyssa from Flow From Within here, and I'm so grateful to have you back here. If you're new to my channel, welcome. This is a channel where we just talk all things spirituality, manifestation, health and wellness, meditation, you name it. This is what this channel is here for. So this week I wanted to talk about my top 5 spiritual books, and this topic came to me mostly because a lot of students after my yoga class used to approach me and ask me, what are my book recommendations? What books did I start to read while I was starting on my journey? If I'm starting to get a little awakened to a spiritual path, what books do I recommend they read? Before I start on my top 5 books that I always used to recommend, I want to say this because it's really important, and I used to say this to my students quite often. Spirituality is not a one-size-fits-all. And what I mean by that is these are books that my spiritual team, my guides, my angels, my higher self put in my path. These might not resonate with you. They might not be the books that you need to read. These are just books that really resonated with me and started me on my spiritual journey, but that might be not the books that you need to read. So take all of these with a grain of salt, knowing that these might call out to you, these might not call out to you, but what I'm hoping these books do is maybe just inspire you to start seeing what books are being presented to you at this time. So that being said, no further ado, let's just get started into these books. So the first book that I actually talk about when it comes to my spiritual journey is this first book. And this is the first book that I started reading on my spiritual journey. It came to me when I was on the ripe age of 22 years old, which was 10 years ago. But this book is Conversations with God. I have book 1, I have book 2, I have book number 3, and top it all off, I have book number 4. There are only 4 books in the series. If he wrote a book number 5, I would pick it up again. This book came into my life at 22 years old because I was going through a huge spiritual conversation with God myself. I was going through a really hard time in my life where I was starting to question the existence of God himself. Neil Donald Walsh is this man who, this is under fiction, but he is this man who claims that he was writing God a letter and God started responding to him through his writing, as in he was channeling God's answers through him. I think everyone should read this book. It healed my relationship with God. It healed my relationship with the universe. It made me know that I am fully supported, and the answers in here, whether they're true or not, I think they're true just because I got so many chills up and down my body when I read them. Like you just feel and know they're coming from a higher source. They just healed me in so many ways. They answered every question, almost every question I ever had. It was like I was having a conversation with God myself. So I'm actually going to read you a quick quote from book number 2. And the reason I chose this quote is because this quote has changed my life in such profound ways, and you'll understand why after I read it. The question had to do with how can you be a better light unto this world? How can you be a healer into this world? How do you help others in this world? And the quote says this: "Why else do you think a person has come to you? I tell you this, every person who has ever come to you has come to receive a gift from you. In doing so, he gives a gift to you, the gift of your experiencing and fulfilling who you are. When you see this simple truth, when you understand it, you see the greatest truth of all. I have sent you nothing but angels." Do you see this? I wish you could see it. My hair is literally like sticking. I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps from reading that quote. I have sent you nothing but angels. When I read that quote, every person I ran into, every coincidence I had, every serendipitous moment I had with a stranger, with someone I knew, I saw them in such a divine light. I saw them as an angel sent to me for a purpose, as to give me a gift, or me to give them a gift, or to receive and to give. And it just became such a different, beautiful moment in my life where I started walking this earth and knowing that everyone I run into and everyone I meet is just divinely selected for me. And it's just such a beautiful, it's so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful way to view those in your life, and to view those who have come into your life. And yeah. So anyway, that is Conversations with God. So I hope I still have you, even though we started with conversations with God. I know that was a little gutsy of me, but I was like, I'm gonna just do it. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna start with conversations with God. So the next book I want to get into is called Change Me Prayers by Tosha Silver. She actually also wrote Outrageous Openness, which is another incredible book. This was her first book, but I actually read her second book before the first book. They're both amazing. And by the way, I will link all of these books down below if you are interested in buying or purchasing any of them. But I'm mostly going to talk about Change Me Prayers because this book was the book that really changed my life. Tosha Silver is this incredible, incredible woman who really embodies this idea of surrendering almost every burden you might have over to the divine, and knowing that they constantly have your back. And you can laugh at some of the things that happen in your life because they're lessons to not take things so seriously, or you can cry at certain things, but then know in your heart that things are always aligning for your highest good, and it's always bringing your vibration higher. It's always bringing your awareness higher. It's always knowing that there's a greater lesson, there's a greater purpose always for you in every situation, every encounter, every hardship, every joy, everything that is presented in your life is always for your highest good. And she really teaches you how to embody this surrendering. So the prayer I'm going to read to you is called Desire, and I have read this prayer like 300 times, easily. This prayer came to me when I had so many desires in my life, and I felt like I was trying to manifest so many things that nothing was happening. And the reason being was I was just resistant, and I was pushing too hard for things to just happen on my timeline without giving it to the divine energy and just allowing things to come when they believe I'm ready for them. And so this prayer of desire changed my life. Just listen to it yourself, and I hope it resonates with you as well. Change me, divine beloved, into one who can easily offer you even the deepest desires, knowing in every cell that you already have the perfect plan for me. You completely know my heart. I'm already getting teary-eyed. Allow me to let go and trust you in every way by waiting or taking action as guided, and always following your lead. Help me let what wants to go, go, and what wants to come, come. I am yours, you are mine, we are one, all is well. Divine beloved, change me into one whose every desire truly belongs to you. Grant me detachment, patience, and calm. Let me fully trust your plan. If this idea is yours, let it bloom in the perfect way. And if it is not, free me from its grip completely. I long for your desires alone. Divine beloved, change me into one who can offer my heart's desires into your loving hands. May I trust your complete guidance in every moment. Change me into one who can offer you even my deepest longings. Let them now be yours to do with as you will. Make me your very own. If this current idea is your own, then please lead the way, filling me with patience and faith. And if this idea is not your will, then free me from attachment, so all may unfold as you desire, trusting there's a perfect plan. I am yours, you are mine, we are one, all is well. You just have to kind of let that simmer there for a minute. The part that registers the most with me while I read that is always the quote of, you completely know my heart, because it's so true. Sometimes when we pray or we're praying, and it's like you're praying as if God or the universe or your higher self doesn't already know. Like, of course they know. Of course they know what you desire. Of course they know your heart. They are you. They are you. You are them. You don't have to list it for them. All you need to say is, I am grateful for all that I have. And I am grateful for all that you wish to come. And I am yours to do with as you will, meaning whatever the highest plan for me, I am open to receiving that. Whatever the highest plan for me is, I'm open to receiving that. If this plan, if this journey, if this whatever is in your idea for my highest plan, then please let it unfold in your divine timing. And if it is not in my highest good, then please remove me from the situation. I trust in you always. I trust in you and your desires for me always. And it's just such a powerful surrender. It's such a powerful surrender. Your highest self, your angels, your guides are always going to bring you where you were needed, where you were protected, where you were safe, and where you were loved. I feel like I could just end it after those two, to be honest, but I will keep going. The next book I am going to talk about is these two books, and they are Steven Pressfield, and one is Turning Pro, and one is The Art of War. Sorry, there's an ambulance going by right now. Typical. I'm mostly going to reference Turning Pro because this is the book I was asked to read right after yoga teacher training. Although I do love The War of Art, this is also an incredible, incredible book. The book Turning Pro is truly about the difference between an amateur and a professional. And what this means is he goes into, especially in The War of Art, but a lot in Turning Pro, which is going into the difference between when you decide to stop being an amateur in something and when you decide to become a professional in something. And a professional doesn't mean you're going to be super famous in regards to whatever you're pursuing, but it just means you're seeing yourself and you're envisioning yourself as a professional. You're showing up as a professional. You're taking your gifts, your voice, and what you have to offer this world seriously. And it just really gets you in the gut of saying, I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to act professional. I'm going to take my work seriously. Only you have the power to bring this from your ether, from your dream space into reality. And it's super important that you take that seriously. You have gifts. You're here for a purpose. And he really inspires you to take it seriously and to take yourself seriously. So I'm actually just going to read you the qualities of a professional that he lists out. So these are just a couple that I'll read to you. I won't go into all of them because I don't want to ruin the book, but these are just a couple so you get a good idea of what we're talking about here. The professional shows up every day. The professional stays on the job all day. The professional is committed over the long haul. For the professional, the stakes are high and real. The professional is patient. The professional seeks order. The professional acts in the face of fear. The professional accepts no excuses. The professional plays it as it lays. The professional is prepared. The professional does not show off. The professional dedicates himself to mastering technique. The professional does not hesitate to ask for help. The professional does not identify with his or her instrument. That's a huge, huge lesson too, by the way. You get the idea of like the differences between what an amateur does to what a professional does. The amateur has the mindset of I guess making excuses in some way, or getting them, I wouldn't say making excuses, I would say they get in their own way. And he really gets you out of that mindset of getting in your own way and just saying, do it or don't, do it or don't. But I highly recommend that you do it. I highly recommend that you do it because you were born to do it. So the next book I'm going to talk about is this book, Anatomy of the Spirit. And I loved, love, love this book. I actually have recommended this book to a lot of my nurse friends, and they love this book as well because it really ties together anatomy and spirituality, or spirit, in such a beautiful and profound way. This book is by Carolyn Myss, and she's just an incredible healer. She just is an incredible healer. And in the first half of this book, she goes into her background as to how she became a healer and started being able to tie together this idea of anatomy with spirit. And in the second half of the book, she goes into the 7 chakras. And the 7 chakras, if you don't know, are these energy, I guess, portals or energy places that we have within our body that store a lot of our energy. And she goes into how we can self-evaluate through each one and start to understand if we have blocked energy being stored there. If you don't know this about me by now, I'm a huge believer of energy. And what she talks about a lot in this book is this idea that energy is stored in our body. Meaning if we're going through an experience that might be traumatic or even might be joyful, whatever this experience is, it's energy that we're experiencing, and this energy might be being trapped in our body in some way. And when energy is trapped in our body, it could manifest into possibly an injury, or it could even manifest into a sickness if we're not constantly self-evaluating what's really going on within our body. What I also loved about this book is when she goes in the 7 chakras, she goes through and she really helps you self-evaluate yourself by understanding what this chakra is. So let's say that she's talking about the heart chakra. She not only goes into what is behind the meaning of the heart chakra, but she'll go into saying the questions that we need to ask yourself to say, do we have, this could manifest in heart disease if we're not careful with taking care of what's really being stored here. Is there a certain heartbreak? People could be storing heartbreak or a traumatic experience that happened to them when they were in high school, and now they're 60 and above, and they're having so many heart issues. And she really helps us self-evaluate and say what could be stored here that we need to release. And she does it in such a incredible way. Like, I can't talk about this book enough. It's a book that you should read more than one time, because every time you self-evaluate with these questions, the answers change, because of course you evolve as your age evolves also. So the quote I'm going to read from this book has to do with these 7 principles that help simplify your spirituality. And the reason I love these 7 principles is because it's true. When your spirituality is simple and you're just able to remind yourself of these 7 principles, then you don't get attached, you get more detached from situations, you don't take things personally. And when you're acting in a space and in a mindset that way, then you won't take on this negative energy, because you're constantly releasing. And you're more able to go with the flow of life. And then you're not storing these traumatic events into your body, which then could cause illness or sickness into you. She says, simplify your spirituality. All my earthly studies of heaven have led me to the conclusion that heaven is not complicated. Therefore, one's personal theology should also not be complicated. Seek to believe only what heaven has issued as essential. For example, all circumstances can be changed in a moment, and all illness can be healed. The divine is not limited by human time, space, or physical conditions. Be consistent, live what you believe. Change is constant. Every life goes through phases of difficult change as well as peace. Learn to go with the flow of change rather than to try to stop change from occurring. Never look to another person to make you happy. Happiness is an internal, personal attitude and personal responsibility. Life is essentially a learning experience. Every situation, challenge, and relationship contains some message worth learning or teaching to others. Positive energy works more effectively than negative energy in each and every situation. Live in the present moment and practice forgiveness of others. So those are just incredible 7 steps into your spirituality that she believes if you act from that place of not complicated and just easy spiritual reminders, then you won't be taking on others' energy and you won't be storing that negative energy into your body, which could then cause you to get sick. All right, friends, we are on our last book, and this last book is Siddhartha, and I love this book. I have read this book maybe 3 or 4 times, and the reason I love this book so much is because you get something new out of it every time you read this book. I mean, you probably get something new out of every book that you ever read if you read it more than one time, but this is just such a beautiful spiritual journey book. And I won't go too much into the story of this because it's really personal for everyone who reads this book, what they get out of it. But essentially it has to do with this man, Siddhartha, and he goes on this spiritual awakening journey where he's just trying to find his truth. He's trying to find what is his truth in this world. And he starts out as being super spiritual, and then he gives it all up, and then he becomes a super simple man. And it's just a beautiful book of these different phases of his life and how his spirituality has changed in each of these phases, but also what he has learned from each of these phases in his life. So I'm going to read you my all-time favorite quote from this book, and I love this quote. I've referenced this quote constantly, and no matter how many times I read this book, it still is my favorite quote. It has to do with Siddhartha is talking to his really good friend, and he's saying that no matter what he feels like he's doing, he feels like he's going in a circle. And there are many times in our life where we feel like we're just going in a circle. We're just reliving kind of the same karmic story over and over. We feel like it's Groundhog Day and nothing new is being presented into our life, and we need a change, but changes aren't happening. You're just constantly being like, I just feel like nothing's happening. I feel like I'm going in circles. I feel like I'm just reliving this. Like, what is the point? What is the purpose? Am I evolving at all? Like, why am I doing all of this? The quote that his friend says back to Siddhartha says, "We have learned so much, Siddhartha. Much still remains to be learned. We are not going around in a circle. We are proceeding upward. The circle is a spiral, and we have already climbed many a step. That quote always gives me so many chills up and down my body because it's true. They say life is a spiral staircase. It's not a straight shot. We're going upwards. It's just in a spiral, and it just is such a beautiful reminder to me every time I read that book that I'm not going around in circles. I've learned so much. I learned so much more than I knew yesterday, and I know so much more today than I will tomorrow, and we just have to trust and have faith that every step we take is proceeding upwards. We are going upwards, whether we can see it in our immediate reality or not. Just trust that every step you take is preceding you upwards, and we have already climbed many a step. The circle is a spiral. The circle is a spiral. Okay, beautiful friends, that is it. Those are my top 5 books that I recommend to a lot of my friends and family and to a lot of my students whenever they ask me. I really, really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, shoot me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. I put out new videos every Monday. And if you know anyone, any friends or family you think might love this video or love this channel, please share it out. I would be so very grateful if you did that also. Again, my name is Alyssa from Flow From Within, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will talk to you all soon.